To most of us, it's Friday.
It's Friday then, it's Saturday, Sunday.
Almost into the weekend. For Trump, it's a normal day back in court.
Fort Pierce now, and Donald Trump just showed up screen right. And look what's going on screen left. Wow.
The Republicans have been trying to find a way of getting President Biden and Hunter Biden into court. They have nothing. Earlier on this week, they had, was it part 3005 of this ludicrous hearing that's gone on non-stop, using your money, by the way. Jasmine Crockett gives us the inside tea on what really happened. All your suspicions about Nancy Mace are about to be confirmed, by the way.
Actually, what's very interesting is that Hunter, he did really, really well. Like, I was sitting there thinking, like, I'm ready to get up and rumble based on, the attitude that people had. But he actually was very even keel. And when it came to his attorney, I mean, his attorney could give a master class on what it is to be an actual trial attorney. As someone who has 18 years under her belt, I felt like I was in my first year of law school because he was excellent. And I think what happened is the Republicans kept thinking, well, Hunter's just this dope head and he's just stupid and he's nobody. So we're just going to talk to him crazy instead of recognizing this is a trained attorney. This is someone who has an amazingly trained attorney and someone who understands the stakes. And Hunter never, ever gave in to their antics. He actually was very level-headed the entire time.
And that's interesting, particularly because there was clearly an attempt to provoke him to act very differently, right?
Yes.
And there was even a moment where Republicans questioned Hunter Biden about, I think it was a WhatsApp message that he sent to a Chinese associate demanding payment, in which he said he was sitting next to his father, but he testified to the committee that he was drunk and probably high at the time, saying, quote, "I was out of my mind. My father was not sitting next to me. My father had no awareness." Obviously, in some respects, Congresswoman, his struggles since 2019 with addiction to alcohol and drugs has been very much a part of the conversation. And he has said that he is carrying so much weight about trying to remain sober as a fight for democracy. Did any of that play out in the hearing?
Absolutely. He made it very clear. And what's interesting is that this wasn't my first hearing like this. This wasn't my first behind closed doors, but this actually was the one where everyone really wanted the fireworks. And it was the least sparky one that we had, to be perfectly honest. He obviously talked about Tony Bobulinski, who came before us, who was a complete clown. I wish that the chairman would go ahead and release that video so y'all could see how he acts and then compare that to what you were able to read about Hunter. And what really came across to me was his humanity and their demagoguery came across, right? Like when we took the first break, one of the things that hasn't been talked about that a lot of people probably didn't see, but I was sitting next to Robert Garcia and next to him was Nancy Mace. And Hunter decided to walk directly up to Nancy Mace, no one else. And he said to her, "I hope that you learn that I'm not the person that you think that I am." And she was dismissive and she was rude, but like literally, like this guy is trying to explain to them that like attacking me and y'all are trying to break me. But the reality is that yes, I've had my struggles, but at the same time, I have been a child who's been engaged in politics since I was 2. The only father that I've known has been a politician. And I think that there was just a lot of really moving points of his testimony to me that came off very, very, very much human.
That's really incredible to hear. What was Nancy Mace's reaction when he said that? I mean, there were no cameras present, so I often wonder about just how much more genuine people's reactions can be in the absence of them. What was her reaction?
She was still Nancy. She was still Nancy. don't get twisted. She was still Nancy. No, her response was, "Well, you've just sat up here and you've lied and you've been defiant." And he, I mean, he didn't engage in a back and forth with her. But I do think that it was also really good that he continued to try to like recenter the Republicans and say, you're asking me, like they tried to delve into issues as it relates to his divorce. His divorce has nothing to do with an impeachment whatsoever of his father, right? And so he would remind them and try to put them back on track, and make sure that he was speaking with specificity on the things that they felt like could be on track. But again, his attorney was masterful in making sure that there was going to be a clear record, where he was constantly saying, hey, just so the record is clear, when you say the Chinese, who are you talking about? Like, you need to be very specific before he answers this question. And, you know, I think that it was much to do about nothing, as we've known this entire time. I think what's really interesting, though, is that they did release the transcript, right? There's so many other transcripts that they have refused to release, and they don't want to release these videos. And I think part of it is simply because, you know, we've made it clear that Hunter didn't say anything that would make them feel as if they have any more evidence. And because now they want to go into the public sphere with a public hearing, I think that it's going to be more so like, hey, look at what he said here. Now we're going to try to trip him up over here and maybe at least get him in trouble in some way.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, you brought this to life for us behind closed doors. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
And when we talk about this impeachment inquiry, which is obviously a catastrophic disaster for Jim Comer and company, you guys say, well, we need to know if Joe Biden is dirty, right? I don't want to go on November 5th, show up and say, well, is this the guy who's making millions of dollars off of China and Uzbekistan, whatever, pulling diamonds out of his hair, whatever you're going to say?
That's why they shut down the laptop.
Oh, right, the penis pictures that were going to decide America's future.
And all the emails.
The point is, don't we deserve to know if one of the nominees for president is a felon? That's what this case is about. And Jack, so maybe I have 30 seconds. I love days when you guys think that you're describing Joe Biden, but you're actually describing Donald Trump. So the person who didn't want the American people to be able to speak in 2020 was Donald Trump, and he had his team of crackpot lawyers fan out across the country to bring frivolous lawsuits when there had been recount after recount to make sure that the American public was disenfranchised and that we wouldn't know how Georgia voted and we wouldn't know how Arizona voted. Then he called up people to put pressure on them to find him 11,000 plus votes in Georgia. We know he did it in Michigan. Ronna McDaniel helped him out with that. That is the threat to democracy, and that's what this case is about. That President Biden should try to move back, or bring back into action, I should say. They were able to get people who were violent criminals out, people who are committing some of these terrible...
What are you saying? What are you saying? Are you saying that the big cities are cooperating with ICE?
They were in the Obama administration. That's what
let's just talk about Joe Biden.
I'm talking about
everyone but Joe Biden. He went there today. What did he tell you?
Well, he told me that we need to pass the bipartisan border deal. And you know why? Because we need things like more Border Patrol agents. We need a higher threshold for asylum.
To let more people in? Why do we need more Border Patrol?
To stop people from coming. What are you talking about?
You build a wall, you do remain in Mexico, and you do the Title 42.
I guess I was right that nothing Joe Biden could have said or that I could have said would have stopped you guys from doing this. Right. These are real solutions.
Let's keep it moving. I love you, but let's keep it moving.
I'm not going to say it back to you. I just want to add that also John Fetterman said today that he would be open to a grand bargain about H.R. 2. No, it's good. These are things that are good for you. Why don't you let me get it out?
You can
as long as you don't touch DACA.
You can get it out, Jessica. But the point about the border bill is even if you sign this bipartisan border bill...
By James Langford, noted commie.
Jessica, you didn't probably even read it. Someone from El Salvador still comes across, and the Border Patrol, I don't care how many you guys hire, still catches and releases them according to this bill.
We don't know who they are.
The president wants us to talk about the bill when...
Really, in a few months' time, this is what it really all comes down to. You'll see how many politicians on cable news, how many politicians on social media. At the end of the day, it comes down to this, you in a voting machine, and having your say. I'm not going to start precedent because it's a real voting station that we come to, and they've allowed us just to, in case you've never actually seen, because I'm an outsider, never actually seen what a voting machine looks like in an American election. Let me just show you one. There we go. I'm scared to touch anything, but yeah, we're actually in a proper, full-on voting area. As you can see, in November, obviously we're in a live voting situation, and I think this is for some local elections or something where we are at the moment. But yeah, there will probably be a lot more security than this. But anyway, that's what they look like. That's what it's all about come November.
So it's a very terrible thing. Our country is being poisoned. We're really being poisoned. We were coming. We were here. Look, you and I made this agreement 2 weeks ago.
No, actually, a month and a half ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. But we made it, and he was a big deporter, and he would deport tremendous numbers of people, and they'd bring them just to the other side of the border, they'd come back. He'd bring them again, they'd come back. Then he brought them 2,000 miles back, and they didn't come back. And I said this morning, I say it loud and clear, you should take a cognitive test. A president should take a cognitive. Now, they say that's unconstitutional. For whatever reason, it's unconstitutional. But I took 2 of them, and I aced both of them, I'm very proud to say, meaning I got it all right.
Ronnie
And Ronnie Jackson did one. They're not that easy. You know, they show you the first ones are pretty easy. And then you get into the middle category. Then you get to the end questions. And very few people could answer those questions. They're actually very tough.
I've seen the test.
But so we're going to be drilling. We're going to be creating low energy, and that's going to bring everything down.
Let me ask. I know
They're coming from jails, and they're coming from prisons, and they're coming from mental institutions, and they're coming from insane asylums, and they're terrorists. They're being let into our country.
So here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Instead of playing politics with this issue, instead of telling members of Congress to block this legislation, join me, or I'll join you in telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security bill. We can do it together. You know and I know it's the toughest, most efficient, most effective border security bill this country has ever seen. So instead of playing politics with the issue, why don't we just get together and get it done?
A big thing, a very important thing. Probably hurt the Republicans because a lot of Republicans really didn't know how to talk about it. And I said, what's the issue? What is it? Explain. What is it exactly? And we're talking about the IVF. And
we have to give some credit to the American people that they're somewhat intelligent and that they know the difference between an opinion show and a news show. You're cynical. Look at that.
I am cynical because,
You think we're bad for America? You think I'm bad for America?
Yeah.
You do?
In the long haul, I think you and all these opinion shows...
That's sad, Ted.
No, you know why?
That's sad.
Because you're very good at what you do, and because you have attracted a significantly more influential...
Well,
let me finish the sentence before you do that.
With all due respect.
You have attracted people who are determined that ideology is more important than facts.
I mean, I own something that became very valuable. Truth has really become sort of the voice of America, the real voice of America, and it's what I use exclusively. But I took 2 of them, and I aced both of them, I'm very proud to say, meaning I got it all right. Ronnie Jackson did one. They're not that easy. You know, they show you the first ones are pretty easy. And then you get into the middle category. Then you get to the end questions. And very few people could answer those questions. They're actually very tough.
I've seen the test.
And I said this morning, I say it loud and clear, you should take a cognitive test. A president should take a cognitive. Now, they say that's unconstitutional. For whatever reason, it's unconstitutional. But I took 2 of them, and I aced both of them, I'm very proud.